There you go. Actually, let me. We're doing Instagram for the first time today, guys. So I got to click that go live button manually because Instagram and TikTok are a little weird. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, welcome to the Beacon TVL show, the weekly podcast from Beacon DeFi, your beacon in the world of decentralized finance. I'm your host, Professor Chris, your DeFi professor. We've got a great show lined up for you as we tackle the news of the week that's relevant to you, our dear users in the world of on-chain investing. Today on the show, we have a fantastic panel reassembled after our trip to Austin. We have developer relations king for Taoshi subnet number 8, the proprietary trading network. That is Ken. Welcome back, sir. How are you?
Thanks for having me again, and it was awesome to meet some of you and kick it with you guys and have some barbecue in Austin. It was awesome.
Awesome. Not to be outdone, Rockstar DJ representing Talisman Wallet World Traveler Robert A. Williams. Good to see you back, sir. You sure got hired, my man.
Oh yeah, and with a great team, yeah, and yeah, it's really fun seeing you guys. Really fun meeting you, Ken. We went to Jirachi briefly, but that was a blast. Represent.
Yes.
Represent.
And speaking of friends, we have a new friend here on the panel, someone that I met in Austin, really well traveled. Man, we had some great talks, and I was just like, I got to get this guy on the pod. This guy is amazing. This is Jirachi. Welcome, sir. Great to see you here representing the great state of Texas.
Guys, it is fantastic. I'm so glad to be here, and I had a fantastic time in Austin with you as well.
Milady.
Love
it. So we're having a little bit of a talk about games that we want to play, specifically like some retro games. Because if we lose Ken, it's because he's downloading all kinds of great retro games. Because we were talking about the handhelds that we have. I think we've shown these before, but I have my Retroid Pocket 5, which plays a lot of retro games. And then if I want to play something on my iPad mini, which is an 8-inch screen, I actually have this Bittensor G8 Plus. It's a Bluetooth controller that goes super wide. I recommend it to anybody who might have a larger device. This fits an iPad Pro, by the way, or even like a Lenovo gaming tablet. Those are all good. So if you're ever looking for literally just ways to turn your brain off and just do something else besides being here and not touching grass, definitely fully recommend. But before, we're going to talk quite a bit about what's next in Bittensor in just a bit, guys. But I wanted to get a quick thing. Like, obviously we spent quite a bit of time in Austin. I realized I actually had zero barbecue in Austin, which is kind of a sin. But I know. Start with you, Ken. What was your biggest highlight from the weekend? It could be personal, it could be professional, whichever.
Probably that second day. The barbecue was good. I've had some of the Austin barbecue before, so but it was nonetheless, it still slapped. It was still awesome. But I really had a good time that second day when it was like the official day. We all were there. It was the longest day there because everybody was shipping out a lot of people were shipping out on Sunday. So that Saturday, we all were just kind of hanging out and listening to good talks. That was kind of the highlight of my trip, I'd say, and seeing a lot of the, working on a subnet, Taoshi. You rub shoulders with a lot of people online, but seeing some of these people in person was awesome. So I think that was the highlight, just meeting some of the people that I've chatted with online and just to see them in person. So we're all not as weird as we are online. Some of us we're all quite normal.
What are you saying, man?
It was cool to just hang out with everyone.
Awesome. How about you, Robert?
Well, besides the hoedown on Sunday, like the country music and dancing from some of the people there.
Really? That's what I missed out on because I had to fly out super early on Sunday. So
yeah. There's like a small group dancing, the square dancing.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
How about you, Jirachi?
I gotta say, it bounced back and forth for me between, I had a really good time with that small group that we had lunch with, Chris. I thought that it was super great. Got to hang out with a bunch of people who I've seen quite a bit online, Voon, Exponent Crisis, like these guys who you don't normally just get to sit for 2 hours with and just have a great convo with. But On Saturday as well, man, we had some fantastic tacos from the food truck. The panels were great. The conversations were good. It was just what a good time. Like what a good event that Chad and the guys really put together.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
put it on. It was awesome.
They
Yeah.
did, and it was small. It was a small, intimate event, but it was full of big-brained, lots of great conversations, people really building, and yeah, I felt very fortunate to be able to be amongst you all and just seeing what you guys are building, and hoping that our collaborations moving forward will just amplify what everybody's building. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. So, wanted to go ahead and on my agenda, I have a PSA about not getting food rugged like I did, but I'm not gonna get super into that because that gets a little then it just sounds like I'm just really just trying to act entitled because I didn't get my food delivered to me from that. But I noticed that a lot of people want to hear about the taco hat, so let's get the taco hat going. Let's get the guy do a little Napoleon here. Back before I rebuilt my studio down here, I couldn't wear this because the green screen got lost. A lot of the thing here, but yes, the taco hat is back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk a little bit about the first thing we talk about here every week, which is what's going on in the markets. It's a little bit crazy going on in terms of really just how well the market has held up, to be quite honest, all things considering. We had Bitcoin reclaim 90K, and let me just make this a little bit larger for our audience here who's watching. Also, heads up to anybody who is on our podcast. We're looking at a tab from CoinGecko. That's where we normally start each week. And overall, it's a little bit of a down day, but I think this is just regular volatility with what's going on. I think everything overall looks really good. If you've been buying over the past week, there's been a lot of really good bullish news with regards to BTC inflows, new SEC chair, BTC vaults. Bills starting to move forward in multiple states. We're getting inflows, and there's just a lot of good things happening in the space. The vibes are back. People are building. People are shipping. We're now deep into Q2, and we're going to see what we build here and get shipped out. Looking at bubbles, this is another thing that we look at, cryptobubbles.net. Looking at the week moves, definitely the biggest one to me is not only just Pengu didn't do a dinner squeeze, but they're pushing some stuff out. But Virtual's back on top at 70% up on the week. This is good for my bags. This is good for anybody who was in the AI agent narrative from the beginning. Hopefully this continues. XMR is up 19%. Somebody thought they'd be cute and try and launder something through Monero. They got rocked, which is, yeah. Take that. Suck on that. So anyway,
well earned, well earned wrecked. Like,
exactly.
Come on, I swear, what were you thinking? I see stuff like that happen, and all I can think is, first of all, you've got 30 well-documented ways of going about that. Why on earth are you going to pump the price of XMR by 50%? It's just, what was the expectation there,
Exactly. Did you guys hear about that, Robert and Ken?
No, I haven't heard about any of this.
Yeah, someone who had a bunch of BTC decided they'd try and wash through, but went the XMR route for whatever reason and got totally rocked.
They just bought straight into it, right?
Yeah. I was just like, no, I get it. It looks like a good idea.
I thought they were being smart. That would be something I would do. Like, oh, this is a big brain idea, and then not think it through, and then, yeah.
Can you imagine how sick to that? Like, despite the ill-gotten gains, anyways, just sick to your stomach. I mean, just watching the million melt off of your bag. It's crazy that people are still doing things like that.
I mean, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, right? It's kind of how it looks on the day. Like I said, fairly, slowly down, but I think this is, all things considering, standard fare. I wouldn't freak out if, Pengu is down 8.8% or Walrus is down 8% or even Helium down 6%. Interesting news on Helium. It's not in the the agenda, but they're partnering with AT&T. So anyone who is an AT&T customer will be able to get Wi-Fi through Helium hotspots. So that's kind of cool for DPIN users. So don't think it pushes the price of DPIN of Helium anywhere, but for anybody who actually happens to have a hotspot, you're going to be getting some good use out of it besides just doing random validations here and there. So go ahead and jump into the news. We've got some good things to talk about today, guys. And I know, Jirachi, you had some things you want to talk about too, so we'll do that in the next segment. But big news for me, at least for our audience, MasterCard unveils end-to-end capabilities to power stablecoin transactions from wallets to checkouts. This is a 360-degree launch. Not only are they doing it from people who have stablecoins, they can actually use MasterCard products that will allow them to spend their stablecoins, but they'll be able to move money around. So they have this new MasterCard Move product, which allows you to withdraw stablecoins to your fiat bank. And then if you are an institution, they have what's called the multi-token network, the MasterCard MTN, which will allow for real-time payments and redemptions on tokenized digital assets at the merchant level. So, and they're all part of the crypto credential system, I believe is what it's called. Yes, there are multiple partners that have the MasterCard crypto credential that allows you to, and this is just a couple of the groups in terms of remittance that will allow you to safely send money back and forth. I made a short about this, and it's probably be out in a couple of days, but the biggest issue I have with sending money back and forth, even just to my own wallets, is that, or in TradFi rather, right? So from my online bank over to my credit union so I can do my car payment. For me to do that is a 3-day process. Something like this, seconds. And it's finalized, settled right then and there within seconds. So big move from MasterCard. More than 90% of the world accepts MasterCard. That's the biggest thing. Visa is also doing similar things, but MasterCard has rolled out a tremendous suite here. Just wanted to get some thoughts. We'll start with you, Jirachi.
I think every time that I see big partnerships between the TradFi space bring on and onboard more users and like put more of that in people's hands, it's just bullish for us. It's great for everybody. I think it's a super positive net gain. And obviously the first people who are kind of interacting with that and who take that kind of stuff up is guys like us. You know, it benefits us right out of the gate. But the thing that often doesn't get discussed is the kind of network effect that comes from, okay, now you've got this entire tranche of users who wouldn't have been exposed to stuff like this. The power's in their hand to use it. It makes them feel more comfortable about putting their hands on it and being able to touch it. And on top of all of that too, when you've got a trusted financial name like MasterCard that's now up next to that information, it's a night and day difference for the rest of the world who kind of still, you know, a very large number of people, if you bring up crypto to them to this day and age, they still think it's a scam. So when things like this happen, I think it's very bullish for the whole ecosystem. It's great for everyone.
Completely agree. Robert, your thoughts on this newfound legitimacy that MasterCard brings?
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, these are the rails that we've been waiting for. Yeah, in terms of like onboarding the general public, making them comfortable with it, like Jirachi said, and yeah, I mean, it just, I mean, like you said, it just really strikes home how antiquated and how like ridiculously unnecessarily slow the old system was. And so, you know, if this is going to be people's impression of what crypto can do, then that's really positive too, because I don't think a lot of people, you know, that general public that we're referring to are even aware of how incredibly quick and efficient crypto makes things compared to the old system.
Yeah, and we were talking about this when we were getting beer, right, in Austin, about how we were paying with our Coinbase cards. Those are Visa cards, by the way, but there are multiple out there. In fact, I'm wearing a shirt of a protocol that I use quite a bit. This is Cypher. Let me show the dog. They have a MasterCard that you can use, multiple chains, Arbitrum and some others that you can use. Same thing with MetaMask card. That's now available as long as you move your funds over to Linea, which is their layer 2 ZK EVM. You can use their MasterCard, which is branded with with the Firefox logo. There's multiple, and Avalanche too is probably the other one that I should probably mention that has big ties there. So Ken, as a solutions provider, as a builder, as a coder, having not only things from like Stripe and some of these other big names out there, but now MasterCard. How bullish is that for you with regards to your customer facing products?
Yeah, that's pretty huge because some of the products that we are building and we want to build, if we want normies on board, we want them to, but we want to onboard. I think one product that we have like a Stripe connection. So more and more, if we get some of these people that are leveraging crypto, we could still we can leverage the whole pipeline, the whole flow, the whole flywheel as well. So it could make it easier for us. One thing that I'm also interested in is the use, as someone who's coding up the UI, UX as well, the user experience in some of these applications, how easy it will be. Are you putting in an address that it then sends, or kind of like an email like Zelle? So I'm curious how that's going to really be implemented. Hopefully, Robert might have some stuff to say on that as well, since Talisman is pretty nice user interface. But yeah, just kind of like the user experience for some of these. Just if we're trying to onboard different types of people, you're going to have the gauntlet of the spectrum of different types of people, the old, the young. So yeah, just curious of the user flow, but it's definitely like Jirachi was saying, the network effect too. And as a builder, it's going to be interesting to see how we can leverage some of this stuff for our own technology.
Yeah, according to the PR, it looks like that they're just building the infrastructure for this. So as long as the protocols themselves have a system for simple and trusted usernames that they have, through something like with Privy or Dynamic or some of these other providers, then that's how that's going to roll. It's kind of like how CCTP works. It's just 10 lines of code that you can put in. So I like this mainly because nothing against Plaid, nothing against Stripe, but having more options to be able to help other types of everyday people, whether or not you have a bank that supports Plaid, or if you don't have a bank at all. These are good ways to to find multiple partners and providers that will provide you with a way to have stable coins, and especially in a place if you live that has a hyperinflationary fiat currency. I mean, this is a no-brainer, because what they've done also is they're allowing merchants and users to merchants to receive the payments, the actual transaction payments in Circle's USDC, regardless of how a consumer pays. So that part's cool too. They're also working with Paxos, because Paxos has they have PayPal USD, but they're also going to have some others through their new global dollar network, which Visa just joined last week. We talked about that last week as well. So yeah, there's the world's becoming digital currencies, guys. That's the whole point from this. Is like before, yeah, you're a little sketchy. You're like, I don't know if I really want to have crypto money, digital dollars. These aren't digital dollars. These are digital assets that have values who's pegged to dollars or local fiat currencies. With everything that's going on and with everything they've been building up to this point to where an administration or group of administrations are going to make it much easier with less, let me just use the word, more flexible oversight to make this a thing. So go out there, try these out. That's the best thing I could tell you guys. You may have some reservations. You're a little weird about what you think is called funny money. Give it a try. You'll be surprised at how easy and straightforward it is, and it works with Android. It works with Google Pay, Samsung Pay, Apple Pay. I love using this type of stuff. It makes my life a lot easier, to be quite honest. Not going to talk about paying taxes on that, but that's something else. Well, we don't talk nearly as much about the hardware wallets themselves on this show, and with Beacon, we talk about hardware wallets all the time. First thing you should do when you join our community, buy a hardware wallet, because it's much easier to farm and set up positions within one for your safety and security than without one. But we've kind of had an optics problem with Ledger, who has kind of come back into our recommendation. It's always between Ledger and Trezor. But the fact of the matter is that Trezor only works on EVM chain. So if you want Solana, if you want Bittensor, if you want Cosmos IBC, you're going to have to use a Ledger. Bitcoin, with like stacks and stuff like that, you're going to have to use a Ledger. So Ledger's been coming out with some interesting things, right? So inside Ledger Live, let me pull up the screen. So inside Ledger Live, which is their software, which for the longest time we just used to just update the firmware on our hardware wallets, because generally we would hook up a hardware wallet to a wallet like Rabby or Talisman or some of these others, MetaMask, and consult and conduct our business that way. We generally would just use Ledger Live just for updating firmware or setting up new accounts, right? They've done some things. First thing they've done is they added the ability to pay for assets inside of Ledger Live by connecting it directly to Coinbase. So if you have a Coinbase account, it's a match made in heaven to bring your assets from Coinbase over to your Ledger safely and securely without going through DeFi. The next thing they've done, pardon me, is they now have stablecoin yields inside of Ledger Live. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around this because to me, this is still nuts. But they've taken advantage of some of the really cool tech under the hood. It starts with Kiln Finance, which is really just an interface with 4626 vaults from what I'm seeing here. They do interface with Aave, Compound, Morpho, Spark, and Sky, which come from the old Maker. But we're looking at cross-chain vaults here that actually can talk. I'm guessing that they're using ETH mainnet because obviously they're going through Ledger Live, but that doesn't mean they have to. They could easily be going through Base. But Morpho is powering a large part of this. Guys, I just want to get your opinion real quick because obviously there are a lot of people who will be holding. I mean, I don't think you'd be holding stable coins on a hardware wallet, but maybe you are. The ability to continue, especially for people who are very risk off, to gain yields just by holding them, in their wallet. Well, it's technically being facilitated through Ledger Live. So I guess it's kind of like going through a DeFi protocol without going through a DeFi protocol. I'll start with you, Robert. What are your thoughts on something like this? Do you think this is bullish for a specific group of people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's great that they found a way to do this, and I think it's something that people, especially risk-off users, who are just looking for, basic yields, I think it's totally suitable for them and something that they're looking for.
Yeah, I completely agree. One big thing before I go on, this is available for multiple wallets, not just ledgers. They're doing it also for Trust Wallet, and I want to say another wallet that I can't think of right now. So you have options without having to go into a DeFi protocol specifically, but still get the exposure. So, Jirachi, I'll go with you next. What do you think about a move like this? Is this bullish for most people who want to hold stable coins on a hardware wallet?
I definitely think so. I think there's always going to be I wouldn't even call it a 50-50 split. I would almost say that more people will err towards the sides of the reason I put that on my ledger is so that it's never touched and it's completely disconnected from everything, and I know it's still in your wallet, but I think there's definitely a large group of people who feel like that, who think like that. But you've also got people who absolutely use it as what it's for and what it kind of originally was, which is just as an additional way to store your coins, an additional store of value. So I definitely think there are people who will like this a lot and who will use it. There's no question. I know me personally for stuff like that, I would rather use a hot wallet, and that's just because I do some terrible security as far as things like that go. That's me. But yeah, I think there's always going to be a group of people who use it that way and who enjoy using it. And I think there's also always going to be a pretty, I don't know if larger is the right word, but a large group of people who are like, I just don't want anything to touch this ever, and that's why I put it there, and that's why they'll kind of use it in that fashion,
No, I completely agree. So, we've talked about this before, Ken, right? With one thing that we're adamant about here at Beacon is that you practice good wallet separation. That's a huge part of what we talk about here, right? A proper cold storage wallet should stay cold, meaning it never ever has DeFi approval transactions ever touching it. So I honestly would think that if you're going to do this on a ledger, do this with one that you would actually use for farming, but have good wallet separation, place on a different address, because every seed phrase has hundreds, almost thousands of addresses that it generates simultaneously, which allows you this tiered approach for something like this, regardless if you think it's risky or not. What are your thoughts overall?
Yeah, it's I hear what everybody else is saying. I personally wouldn't do something like this just because I just have my assets there. I don't want to touch them. I use a ledger. This it's nice to earn some stuff, like, it's stable, so I probably wouldn't, it's stables in my ledger, they don't r that doesn't really that's not a thing that I do, but maybe in, like, my Talisman wallet for sure, something like this, but, yeah, for me personally, it kinda goes against why I'm using my, ledger, it's not how I use my ledger, but as everyone else is saying, there's certainly a subset of people who could definitely, you know, who do also wanna set it and forget it and probably earn a little bit, but I don't really like connecting it to these things because it's just another thing that could go potentially wrong. And my ledger is there just to be over time just built up and nothing's hitting it, nothing's touching it unless I actually, go in and do stuff. So I like that they're adding these things just for those people who want it, but personally, probably not something that I would use, but it's nice that it's
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree. For anyone who's interested in why we may want to do this is mainly because when you have positions, something we push is called the all-weather portfolio. Having a bucketed, allocated system for having your assets, and ultimately, you don't want to have all your assets in one protocol. You want to diversify a bit. So let's say that you have more than 20% in a protocol you like. You might be a little too overinvested if something actually happens. So having multiple options that you can earn yield is always good for you. I mean, I could see people, that have like 10K, in a ledger in just USDC or USDT even, uh, just earning, something like this, because up to 9.9%, not a bad deal. My guess is that you're going to get the best rate off of something like DAI through like the DAI savings rate, or rather Sky savings rate with USDS. But that would probably the one that would probably be the leader, or USDT, since they are doing things with USDT zero cross chain. There could be some additional yields that are being put there. For me, if they ever come around to doing, now that they have access to these cross chain 4626 vaults, if they did something through Morpho or Contango or some of these others where you can have leverage things that are safer on stablecoins that get you up to 15-20%, now we're talking. And now that's something that I might look at. But even at 9, it's just there to probably just have a good chunk just in there earning yield. As long as you're earning yield, right? I mean, that's the one thing. But yeah, I think you mentioned, something really, really great there is that your cold wallet should stay cold. So use a different device if that's something you're interested in specifically for this. Also, this is a convenience thing, right? You don't have to go through Ledger Live to do this. You can get a better rate just going to each of these protocols and figuring out the right strategy. And of course, that's something we can talk about here at the Beacons. One thing I'll also talk about, again, we're talking about incentives, we're talking about stablecoins, things we don't always talk about, but one thing that's kind of been turning my attention, especially with the falling dollar and everything going on with the global trade war, is there's some movement on the euro now, right? We have to call it football again. We can't call it soccer because of what's going on. But if you're looking for an alternative to make a little bit of money from a stablecoin perspective, consider USC, which is the other big stablecoin from Circle, who is the broker behind USDC. There's multiple protocols within DeFi where USC is just a really great rate. You can go on Velodrome and get in excess of 500% if you're a 4-year voter on that pool. I think it's like the concentrated liquidity one with pool. There's pools on Shadow on Sonic, for example, really great rates on that. You can find USC on Beefy, multiple chains that are doing pretty well. Overall, this is for Camino. They're now having, just for supply. One second. And what I mean by that is just supplying. So you're just taking your C that you buy at like Jupiter or something like that, or you bring down from a bridge, and then you just stick it into Camino. And for doing so, they're going to reward you with up to 100K monthly in euros. So if you have this is to me a pretty decent size place. So if you're looking for something to do, if you don't want to do the 9% in your ledger, just bring it to Solana and just stick it in your C, and you'll earn definitely 70%. Well, a larger share if you're supplying as opposed to borrowing. So a lot of people ask, like, what are some really good ways to earn some yield that I don't think of? I'm like, park them in AMMs for lending that borrowers can borrow against, because you're helping to provide liquidity. This is literally the most beautiful part about DeFi, is that you can provide liquidity for other users to use to earn yield, and all of that comes back to you to be incentivized to do that. So, Jirachi, are you a big fan of USD or any of these other alternative fiat stablecoins?
I honestly do not engage with them very much. I am really a USDT USDC guy as far as where I park my stables and what I do with them, and they kind of have two different uses for me. I'm always going to prefer, if it's money that I'm going to, I primarily use Coinbase, which is also a Send in some ways, but if I'm getting paid and I'm planning on cashing that money out, I'm always going to prefer to receive USDC. I like the feeless transactions on Coinbase. It makes my life faster, simpler, easier, and everything in between. If it's kind of something where I have the intention of taking the money and using it for other things, or I'm paying for services, or I'm, this, that, and the other, I typically go with USDT for that purpose, unless there's a preference from whoever it is I'm working with or talking to, or otherwise. There are things, there are advantages and disadvantages to both. There are things that I like about both and dislike about both, but a lot of the stablecoin farming that's going on that I do participate actively in prefers USDC anyways. So that's usually where I kind of lend my buying power to, so to speak, and what I stick with. I have some stables on Sonic and some stables on Mantle as well, but that's more just for like ease of use for things that I'm doing in those ecosystems than it is because I'm like in love with the derivative of the stables,
Yeah, absolutely. Ken, your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, to Jirachi's point, I mean, a lot of us are just fully in the Coinbase. Like, I mean, you start out in the space, a lot of us have been in it for years, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and Coinbase was that initial one. So we've just continued with Coinbase. And now that they have these products, I mean, we were talking about CBBTC. And so just for Jirachi's point, yeah, I use maybe some of those other ones, not so much, but primarily USDC. I think that's what your question was, but and similar with USDT as well, similar use cases, but primarily I'm moving in and out of USDC because of Coinbase and less fees and all that stuff, and base and all that stuff. So yeah, but it's nice that people can earn on these things, and I mean, and decent returns on them. So yeah, those are probably my thoughts on that.
Robert.
I was planning on going on vacation to Europe in a few months. So
see, yeah,
I was like, I saw the dollar falling against the euro. I was like, no.
You got to call football again.
Yeah, so I was like, I was watching this. I was thinking, yeah, maybe I'll throw in a few thousand into euros just to like park them there, right? And earn a little bit of incentives before I go, right?
Yeah, and go get yourself a card, and spend those euros with the better. Actually, that would make sense.
Football.
Yeah, I guess with the better exchange rate, right? So
yeah, football and baguettes. Yeah.
Football and baguettes. F&Bs, brother.
Yeah.
F&Bs. Love it. I'm gonna take a quick segue, real quick. Speaking of, I have no segue there. I was gonna say, speaking of taking a vacation, that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about our free group, Total Value Locked from Beacon. If you like what you're hearing, please like and subscribe. Please follow. If you're on Instagram for the first time with us today, please give us a follow. Would love to have that. Please like and spread to your friends. This is our absolutely free group. That this is where we give back, and we share with you the whole point of how we got into this space. I've been in this space in DeFi since 2019, and we've helped tens of thousands of people get into DeFi safely and securely. And now we're showing you pretty much how. Check out our Start Here post. You'll get a message from myself and our co-founder Andrew, telling you a little bit about what we do, especially with our pathway. So if you're brand new, you're an intermediate investor, or if you want to be the best of the best, get that white glove service, join us in our Beacon Mastermind, where the best are, and talk with our industry insiders and get to where you need to be. We've got people just killing it right now. Just talked to somebody yesterday in our group. They're on Phantom Sonic farming, and they've made 5 figures in profits already. I mean, in a very short amount of time, like really impressive stuff. So along with that, I wanted to talk about our new product that we just launched called the Beacon Challenge. And that is here under this April DeFi update. That's here. Feel free to check it out. Take the challenge and earn your first dollar in DeFi within 48 hours. Then we'll show you exactly how to scale that into consistent returns. The video inside here explains everything. We're actually going to have to take it down when everything fills up because a lot of people are coming in and inquiring about it. So watch it right now in the link in the description. And if you're listening to us on the podcast or you're on our Twitter, come check out the Beacon Challenge, beacondefi.io/challenge. And thanks, of course, for everybody for being on the panel and listening to us here with our show. All right, let's move on to something we talked about a couple weeks ago. You and I, Robert, about neobanks. This is something that's kind of been an interesting move. Specifically because we talked about, ways that you can have cards. Like we just talked about Cypher just a minute ago. MasterCard, big news. There's places like Fido, where you can actually have a debit card that you can, maybe there's not a debit card there. Solaire on Solana definitely has a debit card that you can use and earn 4% on, I'm assuming that's Solaire USD T-bill yield and not the other SUSD from Synthetics. I hope so. We'll find out. It's on Solana, but anyway. There's more quite banking-like services now that are available here in crypto. And it's a really interesting time, right? Because President Trump has removed a lot of oversight, removed issues for banks to be both crypto users and crypto holders through the FDIC. And it's right in time to compete with this stuff. And a couple of new players that have come out in the last couple of weeks that I wanted to talk about with you guys and just kind of get your opinion on. But Brahma, which is one of it's a really cool smart contract workflow console that we've been watching. They're on Arbitrum, Optimism, and Base, and I believe those 3 they're going to more places. But now they offer what are called Brahma cards, where these are just virtual, I guess, top-up debit cards, where you can actually spritz finance your way and program how you want money to be spent from your SCA wallet through services they provide. For example, you put $100 into Aave, and as soon as as you create a Brahma card, once you get the yield from it, and then you can go and have it pay your Netflix subscription. I love that. I love that use case, especially because Netflix is probably going to be $100 a month at some point. But I know Ken's shaking his head. It's a damn shame is what it is. But you have this program of, my God, they have a McDonald's logo here and Steam. I love it. Got to get that Steam summer sale. Go check out a Brahma card, based on yield you're getting off of Aave or even off of Kiln, right? With some of these things we talked about earlier. This is programmable ways to use DeFi to pay for things that you have already out there. No banks involved. That's the interesting part. And I'll move on to this before we start taking some analysis. But EtherFi going from restaking kings to a total neobank pivot. I need to talk to EtherFi. We are partners with them. I need to find out what was the motivation behind this. But ultimately, they wrote something here that really hit me in the feels, because they said that the reason why they went this way is because crypto native businesses have substantial structural advantages versus traditional businesses. They can grow faster, they have remarkable high operating margins, and they can develop defensible moats, things that we've been doing here at Beacon for the last 2 years. I totally vibe with that statement. Crypto native businesses need to stick together, and we need to find ways to support each other. So happy to support EtherFi in this. But they have a full DeFi bank suite, not only with just the restaking stuff that's at the core, but now they're going to have a card. They have the EtherFi card. If you've seen multiple KOLs pushing that card, I want to say it's a MasterCard, but there's a debit card. Let's see. So the cash portion, this is the part that's interesting. They have a fiat on ramp and off ramp for USD and Euro via Swift. There we go. And yeah, this is a fascinating pivot. I'm very curious to get them on the show and find out why go this route. I get it. There's a ton of liquid restaking out there, and frankly, a lot of the liquid restaking spaces are they're kind of set now that EigenLayer is in stride, right? They just did economic staking for AVS validators, so what else can you really do if you're a liquid restaking protocol? Robert, we'll start with you, man. What do you think about all this?
Yeah, it's kind of honestly the first time I'm hearing about this. So
yeah,
it's
pretty recent.
But I think it's a pretty wild pivot, to be honest. I mean, it makes sense in some ways, in terms of the intrinsic yield that's already available there. But yeah, I mean, to go from restaking to being a bank basically is quite a jump, I think.
And they've got the tools to do it. That's the impressive part, is that they had the foresight to start, because they didn't just build this yesterday, right? Mm-hmm. Jirachi, your thoughts. I wanted to kind of get your thoughts. You see a lot of projects like this in the space. So is this a surprising pivot in your opinion?
I don't think it's a surprising pivot. I think that the ability for these complex financial workflows is really cool. I think stuff like that and making things like that accessible to people is a big deal, especially because we see so many agents nowadays that are kind of planning for this future where these kinds of things take place. And maybe today it's set up in this form and fashion where we have to build that out ourselves, but maybe tomorrow it looks more like an agent that's doing that for you based off of a prompt that you give it or a conversation you have with it or some combination of thereof. But in general, I've got some experience with a couple of different neobanks. I've had really good experiences so far. I really liked Revolut. I've really enjoyed using things like Mercury and some of these smaller providers as well. They've been very solid with me and they've done a really good job. I like it particularly because for somebody who has incorporated a couple of S Corps and a couple of C Corps, it's made things very easy for me on the banking side. I haven't had to go in person to a brick and mortar. It's made life better and easy for me. So I like the direction where they're headed with this. And then we see stuff as well, like Mantle's banking.
Let's talk about that actually.
Right. Yeah. When I see stuff like that too, it really gets the gears turning in my head about what we can see in the future out of these various L1s and L2s and how they'll interact with TradFi and how that's going to evolve. So I like seeing this. I think that as we get closer to where the TradFi and the DeFi spaces start to intersect and interact a lot more, not only are we going to see a lot more advantages of it pop up in our day-to-day life, but on top of that too, it's going to strengthen the use case for DeFi and not weaken it as time goes by. I really do think that.
Ken, what do you think? We definitely need options with banks coming down soon. RWA is starting to heat up really hot. We're going to need as many of these crypto native banks as possible. So what are your thoughts on hearing about this? We'll talk about the other things that have come up as well in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Jirachi kind of said it well. I think this is awesome. We're going to need stuff like that. Where does the line really, things are just are meshing, and we want that. Where the perfect balance is going to be, we're still trying to find. But I'm looking at as you guys were talking, I was looking at the Brahm tweet, being able to pay for stuff with, yield that I might be earning. That's fascinating in itself. I am earning that, as if it could happen automatically without me even really doing anything and instead of just having to go in and do all these things. So I got to take a look more at these Brahm cards and EtherFi and specifically what they're doing. But yeah, the lines are crossing as we want it to be, where that will really settle will be interesting. But all these use cases that are coming out, we're throwing darts at walls and some of these, land in nice places. Some of them don't, obviously, but these are fascinating things. And yeah, I got to take more of a look at these Brahm cards, which is fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's interesting is this kind of opens the door for a lot of things, right? So this opens the door for possibly, and kudos to anybody in Bittensor who wants to build a subnet around modeled bank data and financial data to help, build like something like online on-chain credit, which, but could be something that you could build, really just to help support the structure of these things, right? Building commodities and financial fintech tools, decentralized stuff that would be good. We've talked about this one in the past as well, Robert, about WeFi. They're calling it a DO bank instead of a neobank because it's a decentralized neo bank. And what, I could win a Ferrari?
Drop the link.
Right?
Next time we go to Austin, Jirachi's gonna pull up in a Ferrari.
He's gonna pull up in this Wi-Fi wrapped this Wi-Fi wrapped Ferrari. Again, this is such a good hook. Trust should be an option, right? Because that's the one thing about Web3, right? You own your data. So in a world where you can have financial institutions that actually feed and align with that narrative, I think is fantastic. And they're still in the early stages of building this, by the way. They're not fully live yet, but they will be. I would love to at one point, becoming like a governance banker, right? Where you're part of financial institutions like this, and you own governance tokens and you earn rev share, because you're helping provide liquidity for people to take out loans and all this type of other good stuff that can happen with that. Jirachi mentioned Mantle. Mantle has this whole Mantle banking thing that they're coming out with pretty soon. A lot of things are built on top of and what a lot of these projects are building are just fiat adapters. That's the thing. We're not talking about building gigantic liquidity vault pipelines into Swift or anything like that. They're literally building very light software adapters and API pulls between different sources behind the scenes, which we're not going to talk about because they don't want me talking about them, but that offer liquidity to really just fuel all of this, which is amazing. Mantle is actually going to have not only the regular banking support, but also through their Mantle Index 4, the MI4, which is just getting yields off of technically four assets, but it's three. It's BTC, ETH, Sol, and then stables, and then using futures and perps to help build yield for keeping things afloat. And what's great is that they're using Eigen. They're using succinct zero knowledge proofs and Mantle's an OP blockchain. There's not super chain and the OP stack. This is feeling goosebumps. The hairs on my arms are just sticking up with just the innovation here. This is and I'm totally not sharing my screen. I apologize. This is something that is going to be huge, I think, moving forward. Mantle, of course, is Bybit's layer 2. So, we're bullish on CEXL2s because they have plenty of money and liquidity to keep things going. Plus, they also throw a pretty damn good party at Mantle, which is important, right? Bear chain. But anyway, that's this is the banking move. We also talked about Fido and Solaire. There's also things like Lulo and Save Finance, other things like this. Fido is going to be on Base as Solaire is on Solana, but the ability to have what is now being pivoted to as quote unquote savings accounts with mobile apps. That's probably the biggest. That's not the biggest thing, right? Because building a moat, building a UI that works, that's easy to get into, that's easy on the eyes, that's the most important part, right? Because if you build something, it doesn't look good, nobody uses it, that's the classic IT problem. Why build something that nobody's going to use? It's like the biggest lesson that you can learn. So anyway, we spent a lot of time on the news. The title of this episode is literally The Rise of Bittensor and Decentralized AI. So we should probably talk about decentralized AI for a quick minute. I did want to say, with regards to that, congratulations to the Open Tensor Foundation. As of yesterday, we now have our 100th subnet in Bittensor. Drop those money fingers, Kenneth. Yes, sir. Did I hear correctly? They're now moving they went from the Greek alphabet now to the Arabic alphabet to be able to do some of the coins here. So for anybody who didn't get to go to Austin, I have these subnet coins. They North Tensor would not allow me to get any more Taoshi ones because they wanted to make sure that all 800 people from Taoshi got one who showed up to the conference. But I've got 2 here, one for Targon, which is 4 in Delta, and one for Open Cato, which is subnet number 5 for Epsilon. So I need to actually, pop these into the wallet I'm going to set up on Talisman to claim them, but I'll have some alpha tokens there. But yeah, really excited about these little things. Had a great time. Really the question is, gentlemen, about coming back from Bittensor. So a lot of people still don't know a lot about Bittensor. Feel free to follow me. I've reposted something from Mark Jeffrey, a really good content creator in this space, about specifically what is Bittensor and what should you really be expecting of it. So now that we have our 100th subnet, what is probably next? I'll start with you, Ken.
101 subnets. That's what I'm.
Fair enough.
No.
And all these subnets are grown men and unarmed men, and they're fighting a gorilla.
Now we're getting down to the real questions.
Exactly.
No, I think a lot of it will be interoperability between these subnets, which is something that's already starting to happen. But I think there's and this kind of happened in person at in game, but we're all kind of talking about how we can work together and interoperability between the subnets, and some of that's already kind of being facilitated, but even a little bit more so, because with the 100 subnets, some of us are doing similar things, some of us are doing complementary things, some of us are doing opposite things, but there's a lot of things that we could do together. So I think that we could see a big push for that next. So and I even tweeted about it. I think Endgame was kind of a must-go conference if you're building on Bittensor. Just the people you're talking to, the ideas that people are talking about, the whatnot. It was a great conference. We went to several conferences last year, but I would say Endgame probably was one of the most productive ones that Taoshi went to. So, but yeah, subnets talking to subnets. I think that could be what's next.
Yeah, we definitely need. I'm excited for the next Bittensor event. So congrats to Shad and group, and I hope you can find ways to get more events like that going on the calendar, because I thought it was very important. It gave me a lot of information that I needed to really complete the puzzle of Bittensor. And I'll tell you all right now, tons of people in our mastermind are already staking into subnets as we speak. I need to put together a full soup to nuts guide, but I've already put one, as of yesterday, trying to get in using Talisman. So Robert, we'll move to you, sir, with Talisman, and just your overall thoughts with Bittensor decentralized AI. What do you think is next? Doesn't have to be Bittensor, but in general, what do you think is next?
Well, yeah, I mean, we were mostly there just to to learn and listen, as the wallet provider to features that people enjoyed and wanted to maybe also request or add into the wallet, and so that was really productive. But in terms of what's next, I just think that just the whole one of the overarching themes that we of course heard was, how disruptive the idea of decentralized GPU for AI is, and these open source models and so forth. And so that's like kind of the foundation, right? So in terms of what's next, I think reaching certain benchmarks in those areas is what's next, in terms of competing with some of the more centralized and mainstream models. I think that's going to be like the watershed moment that a lot of people are talking about. That really, because for example, like Forbes was there, but at that point when these benchmarks are reached from decentralized AI, just at its core, in terms of parameters and performance, I think that'll really be the next thing that really gets people's attention.
Really, I didn't know Forbes was there. Interesting.
Yeah, somebody from Forbes was there.
Oh, cool. Jirachi, what are your thoughts? Obviously, you have your hands in a lot of different pots. So, based on what you saw at Bittensor, I mean, I'll say it. I would not be shocked if Tau flips ETH. Full stop.
One thing that I thought was really interesting is, like, Chris, look at me and you. We both came in from out of town. We were both there. Neither one of us works for a subnet, and here we are, ultra fascinated, extremely interested, excited about the ecosystem and everything in between. And one thing that I kept hearing over and over and over again, and another thing that I noticed too, is everybody very much so compared Endgame to what ETH Denver was like in 2017, 2018, in those early days where there was not, millions of dollars of sponsorship money and all of these ginormous companies and all of these different things. It wasn't so commoditized. It was very much so this ungate-kept environment where you could have a free conversation with anybody. They were excited to help. They were excited to connect. They were excited about the ethos of the ecosystem. And I personally, I wasn't at ETH Denver in those times, and I wasn't doing this then, but the people who I spoke to at the conference, overwhelmingly, quite a number of them were. There was a significant amount of people who were essentially old heads in the sense of crypto in this space and everything like that. And they were so excited about how this felt more familiar to the original purpose and community than it has in a long time. And that's one of the things that, as a guy who knows that projects and ecosystems live and die by their community, that is extremely bullish to me. I very much so liked it. Everybody who I spoke to was excited. And you don't always get that. The other thing that I thought was really unique about the general vibe and the general attitude and how everybody felt about it, and how it even influenced me to feel about it, is this outpouring of ideas from people who they've innovated and iterated in Web3 and AI already, and they see this and the obsession takes off with them. They look at the Bittensor ecosystem and they're fully locked in on what this means to them and what this means for the future. There is not a lot of other blockchain projects where that is happening right now. That attitude is not prevalent everywhere else. So I totally get where you're coming from. Like, I can easily see Tau even in its current state, going much, much, much higher. It's already gone much higher many times before. And yeah. I was gonna mention this too. We've seen this little slump in terms of the subnets, but we've seen the rise in price on Tau significantly. So I think that we'll continue to see things like that, but that we'll see the overall growth continue to happen no matter what. More people are going to discover this. They're going to be excited about it. They're going to want in on this. And we're probably going to see that happen before the end of the year to a significant degree.
Yeah, completely agree. Just wanted to give a shout out to the guys to JJ and them at Tau.app for updating the site. Looks really good. Also to the team over at Tau Yield for giving us some ideas on really good ways to get some yield in this space. So yeah, congrats to all the builders, congrats to all the subnets. Looking forward to have multiple subnets here on the show moving forward. I'm not going to say I'm Tau-pilled because I don't want to be too bullish or too biased, but I've been following Tau since the beginning, back when we were kind of wondering and speculating on it when it was like at $800-900 per Tau. I think they're really settled into the groove now. I think there's full-fledged products. I'll have a post out on both our the mastermind already got a post, but I'll have a post out on Total Value Locked about some of the really great things that I saw, and what Luke and I from Taushi talked about last week on on the run up to Endgame is that it's a network, an internet of AI modeled super commodities. And I really vibe with that statement, because all the things that are here in these subnets, they're actual products that people can use. And I mean, we're talking about things from modeled, obviously with Taushi and the proprietary chain network, we have, things like automated trading and signals and whatnot. And Targon and Shoots have infrastructure. Tau Hash just talked about how they're mining Bitcoin, doing that. Same with Apex. They're also doing that as well. And you have things like weather, real estate data, all kinds of amazing commodities that are being built here in each of these subnets. and they're all fighting for tau emissions. So they're incentivized to do really great things. This is something you can't say about things like Pump.Fun and Radium Launch Lab and stuff like that. These are things with true utility. And if you're looking for sure bets in this space, you're going to find quite a few of them here in the Bittensor ecosystem. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm tau-pilled, but I'm very, very excited. And as Emperor Palpatine would say, we're looking with great interest to see where you guys go from here. I wanted to give you guys a quick minute to plug your stuff. Again, thanks to Robert from Talisman, Ken from Taushi, and Jirachi from Formation. We'll start with you. Jirachi, give us a little bit of talk. Plug whatever you like, but tell me a little bit more about Form.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're building one of the first vertically integrated agent marketplaces. So I'm sure you've heard a little bit about agent marketplaces. I'm sure you've at least seen some things about them, but what many of them they lack is this structure where they own the entire infrastructure and software stack end to end. So that is one of the many benefits that we provide, but to an even greater degree, with a focus on enterprise, your data is yours. You're in complete control of it. There is no black confusing box that we don't have an entryway into where, okay, hey, you're not using us anymore, but we've still retained your data. We've still got all of your information and things of that nature. Everything is on our hardware stack. It is from A to Z. It is with us. There's no concern about, I can't get my data out tomorrow. Yes, you can. You always have this option and this ability. But one of the even better things is we've got a great focus on the developers. So we're one of the first marketplaces where any dev can come on and kind of contribute their own AI agent as it gets usage and as people are interested in it, putting it onto their workflows, using it in their day-to-day lives. That developer is going to get rewarded for it. They're going to get paid out on usage. So it's a great system where not only do you have native agents and models where we're working with it, devs can contribute to the ecosystem freely and easily as well. And our sister company, RWAI, they are also doing some amazing things. They're providing yield based off of the usage of the GPU stack that we're working with them with. So the two companies go hand in hand. They do some really great work. So we've got some fantastic people working on this right now. But the other place I'd say we really shine is this ability to do AI digital transformations for Web 2 companies, which is likely going to be a $1 trillion industry in the coming years. You've got hundreds of thousands of businesses that could benefit from this type of technology. And they've got these repeatable workflows, these repeatable processes, and just no idea where to start. That's one place where we're a huge help. If you're a business or a company and you're wondering how you can integrate this in your day-to-day to save money, to save time, to save energy, free up resources, hands, whatever it is you're interested in. That's our bread and butter. We can absolutely make that happen for you.
Man, you should work in business development or something, because I'm sold, bro. That's amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Would love to have you back sometime soon for sure.
No, absolutely. Thank you. I was glad to come, Chris. It's been fantastic. Robert and Ken, great.
Excellent. Glad you enjoyed it. Two great things that happened in Austin is that, formalized some partnerships here. First, of course, with Talisman, the fantastic cross-chain wallet. Robert, sir, plug your stuff, sir.
Yeah, happy to. So, in the context of Tau and Bittensor, as many people in the community know, Talisman's already perhaps the top Bittensor wallet in the space. We have great UI UX from the get go, and in terms of Tau, we've already built in really great options for staking on root and subnet. You can choose validators and subnets directly from within the wallet, seeing the full list of subnets there, and so that's been going great. You can also switch validators, for example, without unstaking. So we're looking to add more features like that. So definitely, hop into our Discord. You can find it at talisman.xyz to tell us about your experience if you're listening, and suggest features or give us feedback. We did get a lot of requests for mobile, which we are definitely working on. We've already gotten through the initial design phase there, and so we will be releasing mobile this year, as early as within a few months. Could be a little bit longer, but it's just around the corner. So yeah, excited to to keep shipping features that work for Tau users and to keep that feedback loop going.
Yeah, I like this account folders thing. That's a really nice touch.
Yeah, we do have a lot of features like that not a lot of wallets have.
Right. No, that's cool.
Yeah, custom derivation paths, folders. We have a cross-chain swaps feature, which is very convenient as well.
Indeed.
Yeah, going from like ETH to Tau, for example, from Ethereum mainnet, swapping into Tau. It's a great way to acquire Tau. So yeah, eager to hear everyone's experience and opinions going forward too.
Yeah, and if you're a mastermind member or an accelerator member, we'll be working very closely with Robert to put together some guides to make getting into Bittensor and all other ecosystems very easy to do so. We of course recommend Rabby to all of our community as a starting EVM wallet, Phantom for Solana, but Talisman for sure for anything with regards to Bittensor and other, like DOT, of course. And another new partnership we have now with Taoshi subnet number 8, the proprietary chain network. My brother Kenneth, my brother in code.
Yes.
Tell me more about how the progress is on Glitch Financial.
Oh man, yeah, we're still in beta, but the results have been very promising. A lot of people have published the results on their Twitter. You're looking at the website that I myself, along with the team, have coded up. So yeah, I'm developer relations at Taoshi, which Taoshi is kind of the parent company for Glitch Financial, which Glitch Financial is using Bittensor and the hive mind of our miners to power actual insights. We're using kind of this like hive mind of traders and whatnot. And through that, we're able to make actionable insights on that data. So you don't have to be a Bittensor Tau person to use Glitch. That's the nice thing about it. It's non-custodial. It just kind of plugs into whatever exchange you want, and it kind of just runs from there. But what's running is kind of the Bittensor product. So we're seeing a lot of positive things come out of our beta testers. So this will be coming out here soon. But if as we all been talking about Tau and Bittensor, if you guys publish a little bit of videos and potentially through Beacon as well in the future, but publish some videos on Bittensor and just some learning topics. If you guys are interested, look me up on Twitter, Raleigh_CA. But also check out glitch.financial and Taoshi.io if you want to know more. But send me a message as well. Always interested in chatting Bittensor, Taoshi, Glitch, all that stuff. And yeah, nice chatting with Robert and Jirachi. Really met you guys at Austin, but also nice to be on a pod with you guys. Really some in-depth, interesting thoughts you guys have. And as always, Chris, just nice chatting with you. Just don't give me any more margaritas.
I didn't feed you any margaritas for what it was worth.
That was
the face you had the entire time.
Well, so we walked over to the place next door to the Bittensor conference, and they gave us margaritas. Turns out they were some of the strongest margaritas in all of Austin. So, yeah.
I mean, the place is called De Nada, so you're welcome.
Yeah, I guess you're welcome for whatever night's about to transpire. But no, it was awesome meeting everyone. Had a good time at Endgame.
Yeah, had a great time. Looking forward to seeing you guys at the next Bittensor conference. I'll actually be the next conference I'm going to is at BTC Vegas 2025. That's at the Venetian on May 27th through 29th. So we will be there, and then I'll be at Permissionless in Brooklyn. First time back in Brooklyn in a minute. That's going to be in June 24th, I believe. So looking forward to seeing everybody there. That's a Blockworks industry trade event. So we do this show every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Twitch, sometimes on Facebook, stream.tv, and now on Instagram. We're going to be testing out TikTok next week. So I'm going to be out there talking to all kinds of people, me and my old butt. So thanks for being here. Of course, thanks to Robert, thanks to Ken, thanks to Jirashi for being here. Please check us out. Give us a like, a subscribe, a follow. We'll also be having all of their information on our descriptions, mainly probably on Twitter because they make it easy. But yeah, feel free to join us again. Next, join our free group, of course, Total Value Locked. And we do have a free community training. So if you want to learn more about DeFi, check us out every Friday, 3 p.m. And we'll be doing it on the same live stream here. It'll be on our Twitter and our YouTube. And I guess I'll give it a try on Instagram. I'm not quite sure, but we'll see you then. We'll see you next week for another one. As we say here, beacons up, banks down. Take care, everybody.